Have I reached the point in my video reviews where I can just sigh heavily when I don't like a movie? Like, is that enough to get my point across? Is it? I'm gonna sigh heavily. Actually, so this movie gets a pass for one reason and one reason only. The opening scene had the best dialogue about pancakes I've ever seen in a movie, and Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg have really good chemistry together. And I wish they were in a movie that I liked because they were so good together, and yet the movie was not. And this I'm talking of Two Guns from 2013. I remember seeing trailers for this and posters and stuff all over LA because it was right after I moved to LA. And as much as I loved Denzel Washington, I didn't go see this movie. I actually think this opened roughly around the same time as Riddick, and I went and saw Riddick instead. I'm sorry, I like the Riddick series. And Riddick had that great 10 minutes opening of just silence. Oh, so good. But Two Guns. I read one review that sort of compared its peppered violence to Jim Thompson, and I gotta say that's an accurate description. I think, especially film adaptations of Jim Thompson, if you're thinking like The Killer Inside Me, that is just so hyper violent, and you're like, but why? That's kind of how I was with Two Guns, where it was so hyper violent in ways that I was like, but why? And the plot is just so complicated and plotting, and the women were just so pointless, where you're just like, why don't you write good women? Why is it so hard? If you can write a good man character, you can write a good woman character. It's really not that fucking hard. And I'm tired of movies that just like throw a woman in so that she can be in her bra in a couple of scenes and or topless. And Paula Patton is a much better actress than someone who should just be running around in her bra and underwear. And if you can write such snappy, great dialogue for Washington and Wahlberg to have in their repartee, then you can write a great female character somewhere in there. It's not hard. It's not hard. They call this movie a comedy, and it's not really a comedy. It's an action film that just happens to have some witty dialogue in it. It's not really a comedy. Just like The Preacher's Wife is also not a comedy. So Denzel Washington has never done a comedy. I don't know why Wikipedia is trying to claim either of those movies are comedies. This was directed by Baltasar Kormákur, who has a crazy name. Let's see what else he's done. Nothing that I've seen. Yeah, I haven't seen any of his movies. And let's see here. So I've not seen any of his movies. Denzel Washington continues to be in. I've watched a lot of crap trying to get through this Denzel Washington filmography because I've mostly seen most of his great films already. I have a couple that might be hidden gems in the like 12 that I have left, but watched a lot of crap for him. And he's good, and it's like, you're so good. Why do you end up in these movies? I don't understand. Except that, he makes a movie and then the movie makes money, so he must have fun. The other thing that irritates me about movies like this is this has a $61 million budget. Moonlight was made for $1 million. You could find 61, not that there are 61 like Barry Jenkins floating around, but I'm sure there are at least 30 people with heartfelt, wonderful, moving, important, unseen stories who are capable of making a $2 million movie. And I would rather see those 30 movies than one more of these sort of just ridiculous popcorn action movies. And I don't like them, and that's why I don't see them in theaters. But I'm watching them in order to get through Denzel's filmography, and it is trying my patience. But I'll do it because I love him, and I will see his movies, and then once I've seen all of them, I can just go back and watch the ones that I actually enjoy. And he used to make, it's only in the like 2000s that he's been making these ones, except for Ricochet, that are like ridiculous, and I guess Virtuosity, but like most of the ones he made in the 90s that were a little on paper seemed run-of-the-mill are really fascinating, like Fallen or Bone Collector. But he doesn't really make movies like that anymore, although I liked The Equalizer. looking forward to Equalizer 2. This ended up not really being a review of this film. Basically, Denzel Washington this is a convoluted plot, so I'm going to give you like part of it, and then you can just go from there. Is an undercover DEA agent. Mark Wahlberg is an undercover uh, Navy man, I think. Yeah, Navy SEAL. Okay. And you find this out in layers. And they don't know that each other is undercover, and they're together on various stings that are basically the same sting, but they are working against each other, but also with each other. They have to rob a bank in order to catch a bad guy played by Edward James Olmos. But then other shenanigans ensue because the bank has hidden money that may or may not be Navy SEAL money. James Marsden is a bad guy in this movie. He does not get enough screen time. He is also way too good for the role he's found himself in, just like Paula Patton. The only sort of supporting character in here that gets to do anything interesting is Bill Paxton, who's this man who just floats around hurting people and being evil. And Fred Ward pops out of nowhere at one point. And there's just a lot that happens in this movie, most of which I was like, okay, and a lot of things blow up, and there's a lot of hyperviolence, and chickens get their heads shot off, which was like, why do you need to shoot chickens' heads off? I don't know. But it had that great opening sequence with the pancakes, and then it ends with a similar sequence in a diner, and I do love diner scenes. So it almost gets a pass for those moments. I just wish that it were as clever as that opening sequence. Like, actually, if the first 10 minutes of it were just a short film and you didn't know anything else, and you got rid of the whole rest of the movie and you just had that, it'd be a satisfying 10-minute short film. So I'm recommending the first 10 minutes of Two Guns. Yes. This is from 2013. It's directed by Baltasar Kormákur, and I am so close to being done with watching all of Denzel Washington's movies. If you've been following along for the last 2 years, I go off and on in phases where I try really hard to watch them all, and then I forget for a few months, and then I try again. And I have 12 left, and we have 2 months, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. A couple of them are hard to find. Wish me luck. Denzel fans.